Thank you, everybody. We'd like to kick off this monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of College of the Redwoods. Please join me in a salute to the flag.
I
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. This will be opening up a public hearing on our final budget. Don't notice any public comment about that at this time. So let's move into item 1.2, the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered today is unceded territory of the Wiyot people who continue to live and thrive in this land today. It is surrounded by the traditional, ancestral, and present homeland of several indigenous nations, including the Hupa, Karuk, Matol, Tolowa, Wailaki, and Yurok that make up Humboldt and Del Norte counties. All right, thank you. Is there any general public comments at this time? All right, hearing none. Item 1.4, member comments. Do any members of the board wish to make any comments right now? Right. Seeing none, hearing none, moving on to 1.5, board committee reports.
President Kelly?
Yes.
I would like to report that the Audit and Finance Committee met today. The agenda, is public there with the website.
for the summer. For summer? No, I don't.
What? I'm sorry.
Oh, I think there was some crosstalk. I think you're fine, Trustee Matthews.
Sorry.
No worries.
So the Audit and Finance Committee met today at noon, and we had an in-depth review of the budget, the final budget for the 21-22 year with Vice President Morrison. And we also received a report on the delinquent accounts receivable. And that report is attached to the agenda for the Audit Committee, so it is available to everybody. The exciting, the very positive part was that the $2 million old student debt, more than 3 years old, has been booked or written off with the 2021 budget, and we were very pleased with that.
Thank you, Trustee Matthews. Any other committees wishing to report at this time?
I am.
Dr. Robinson, hello. I see you.
I think I might have clapped accidentally instead of raising my hand. So this is Trustee Robertson reporting on behalf of the Ad Hoc Committee on Advocacy. We met last Tuesday, which was the 31st of August. It was myself, President Kelly, and Trustee Biggin. And so we discussed how to proceed with the advocacy ideas for academic year 21-22 that were presented at the August board workshop. So those ideas, just briefly, included advocacy for a cost of living adjustment in 22-23, CR offering vocationally focused baccalaureate degrees, funds for aquaculture and wind technology labs, startup funds for CR programs that are linked to HSU's Polytechnic, focused on increasing workers for the local healthcare industry. And then we also at the August workshop talked about advocating for the Pelican Bay program. And so at our meeting last week, we all agreed that we really would like some more background information about all of these before we can put together a comprehensive plan for advocacy. Each of these ideas are very complex with many, many stakeholders at the local, state, and even likely the federal level. So we have invited President Flamer. I just sent the invitation today to our next committee meeting with the hope that he can really provide us some of that background information. And then we're also hoping to explore with President Flamer how we might leverage the board to really broaden and strengthen our advocacy efforts in this upcoming academic year. And our plan being to develop an advocacy plan that we can present to the board at the November meeting. Over the coming month, we also will be reviewing BP 2515 as well as AP 2515 on board advocacy, and we'll present any proposed revisions at the October board meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Roberts. Okay, moving into our consent calendar items. Do any trustees wish to pull anything from consent at this time? Trustee Mullery? You're muted. Trustee Mullery, you're muted.
Sorry. 2.2, please.
2.2. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no further, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I so move.
I
Thank
second.
you, Trustee Matthews, Trustee Mullery. Thank you. Cynthia, would you mind calling the roll call for approval of 2.1 through 2.9 minus 2.2?
Carol Matthews,
Yes.
Colleen Mullery,
Yes.
Sally Biggin,
yes,
Tracy Copini,
Yes.
Rebecca Robertson,
Yes.
Danny Kelly,
Yes.
Brianna Remy.
yes,
Thank you, everyone. Trustee Mullery, item 2.2.
Yes, I would like to have the board consider adding in the area that dealt with the advocacy that we discussed, that I believe the board also agreed to include the Pelican Bay Scholars Program as a point of advocacy, and that doesn't show up in the minutes.
Sounds good.
We'll entertain a motion to approve pending revision.
I so
I
move.
Thank you, Trustee Copini and Trustee Robertson. Cynthia, would you mind?
Carol Matthews,
Yes.
Colleen Mullery,
Yes.
Sally Biggin,
yes,
Tracy Copini,
Yes.
Rebecca Robertson,
Yes.
Danny Kelly,
Yes.
Brianna Remy.
yes,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to our action and discussion items. Item 3.1, approval of the final budget. Entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Copini.
I second.
Second, Trustee Robertson. Any discussion or questions? All right,
Well,
Trustee Matthews.
I would just point out from, the board has seen much of this before in its final form now, but I would point out from the Audit and Finance Committee that while the projection going forward looks better than we thought a year or two ago in terms of the state budget and how the student funding formula, et cetera, is going to go moving forward, but it is built on acknowledging that we will need to build student enrollment as we come out of hopefully the COVID situation, and that maintaining even most of our reserve is going to be dependent on building student enrollment. And it's not a surprise, but we need to know that going forward.
Thank you, Trustee Matthews.
I just have another comment. The projected reserves, they're real reserves. because the 2 million is written off, 2.1 million. And although there's other challenges on the student debt that's newer than that, that's also in the budget for the next year. So it is a breath of fresh air from, for right now, but Trustee Matthews is right. We're very challenged going forward with the FTS and COVID and et cetera.
Thank you, Trustee Copini. Any further comments or questions at this time from the members? All right. Cynthia, would you mind?
Carol Matthews,
Yes.
Colleen Mullery,
Yes.
Sally Biggin,
Yes.
Tracy Copini,
Yes.
Rebecca Robertson,
Yes.
Danny Kelly,
Yes.
Brianna Remy.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. That brings us to item 3.2, approving the monthly financial status report. We have a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Matthews.
I second it.
Trustee Biggin, thank you. Any comments, discussion?
I'm trying to raise my hand here.
Oh, there you are. I see you.
Yes, I just have one question on a purchase order. And actually, it's two purchase orders, and they both are for legal services. The numbers are 11996 and 12002. They're right next to each other. But my question is, combined, the amount is $270,000. And I just wanted some clarification that wasn't just for the month of July, but for a period of time. So I'm wondering if someone can explain to me the period of time that $270,000 may be for. One was for the, I don't have it in front of me, the Humboldt County of Education, and the other was for the our regular law firm.
Julia, do you have an answer on that HCOE for 195,000?
Yeah, that's for our annual retainer for Humboldt County Office of Education. They partner that basically we buy legal hours through them, and we use school and colleges legal services.
Okay, I thought that would be the case, but I wanted to make sure. So that's for the full year.
Correct.
Full year. And is that the same for Erickson? I'm imagining that has something to do with bargaining.
Again, that's an annual estimated annual expense with Erickson Law Firm.
All right. Thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions? Cynthia, do you mind?
Carol Matthews,
Yes.
Colleen Mullery,
Yes.
Sally Biggin,
Yes.
Tracy Copini,
Yes.
Rebecca Robertson,
Yes.
Danny Kelly,
Yes.
Brianna Remy.
Yes.
All right. Moving right along, item 3.3, approving the amended BP 2900 for SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, the vaccination requirement in AP 2900. Entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Robertson.
A second.
Trustee Matthews, thank you. Any comments, discussion? Trustee Mullery.
Yes, Cynthia, could you pull up the BP? Thank you. It's in the second paragraph, and I was just curious about the language here. It says that the law requires the board to obtain medical documentation from each academic employee. And it was the describer academic that was different to me. sometimes, at least when I read academic employee, that's employees who are within the, academic division. And I don't think that's the intent. In later documents, it refers to all district employees. So I was just curious about that language.
This language was taken straight from our current board policy, Dr. Mullery. So I didn't make any changes to this document at all. And since that paragraph is focused on instruction areas that have to do with students, I just left that alone.
But it is the case that we will be requiring that medical documentation from all district employees, correct?
You are correct.
Okay.
And then that's spelled out in the accompanying AP.
Right, right.
Thank you, Trustee Mullery. Dr. Flamer.
Now, is it the will of the board to change this language to just plain all employees? Because the board owns this board policy.
Yeah, I would. I'd support that.
That's
Okay.
why.
I would too. Just for clarification.
If I may jump in here, again, in the AP, it refers to all district employees. And I'm wondering if we should just be consistent with the language rather than just saying all employees. But
Absolutely, Dr. Muller. Absolutely. I'll just make that parallel language.
okay, thank you.
So can we have a revision on the motion just to include the change? Who made the first motion? I believe it was.
I did. I move that we approve the revised language.
Thank you, Dr. Robertson. And the second was Trustee Copini?
As Trustee Matthews.
Matthews.
Okay, it's, yes, district employees.
Perfect. Any further discussion? All right, Cynthia?
Carol Matthews,
Yes,
Pauline Mullery,
Yes,
Sally Biggin,
yes,
Tracy Copini,
Yes.
Rebecca Robertson,
Yes.
Danny Kelly,
Yes.
Brianna Remy.
yes,
Thank you, everyone. All right, moving into our informational reports section, the
I'm
midterm
sorry,
report for accreditation. Oh,
Danny,
sorry.
or
Yes.
President Kelly, I also had a comment about the AP in that previous.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Sorry, I should
um,
have said something before. Yeah.
Let's see. I suppose we just go back. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I regret I didn't speak up sooner. The only question I have, I don't think we have to go all the way through it, but as I was reading this, it wasn't clear to me, although I think I know the answer, but it's not clear to me where the actual COVID testing will occur.
I'm sorry, you broke up. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the full question.
Yeah, it's not clear to me as I read this AP where the COVID testing will occur for employees and students and contract personnel. I'm assuming it's on campus, or maybe it's not. It's not clear.
Thank you. It's going to be both on campus, but also the employee can go to any other location. But we offer it on campus as well. And that's spelled out in the MOU if it's ratified by CSEA today.
Okay. All right.
And I didn't want to put it in the AP in case we stop doing it on this campus for a number of months and then someone else takes it over.
But in any case, the student nor the employee will be paying for the testing.
Correct. It's on the college.
Alrighty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was my only question, and it's good to know it's in the MOU. Thank you, President Kelly.
Thank you. So it doesn't sound like that will change our need to vote.
No, it's only an AP.
Okay.
Well, it's different from policy. I just wanted some clarity. Thank you.
Okay. So moving us down to item 4.1, the accreditation update with midterm report. Dr. Flamer?
Thank you. This is, again, it's information. If the board and our constituent groups could please read through it. It's a draft report, and give feedback back to George and to Dave Bizarre. They've worked extremely hard at making this report true and authentic, but also very, very easy to read. This does indeed show exactly how much work the district has done to satisfy all these improvement areas. And I intend to send the final report to the board to approve at their October meeting. And the final report has to be submitted to the ACCJC in October.
Thanks, Dr. Flamer. Any comments or questions?
We thank them for the work, which is
Yes.
considerable.
Thank you, Trustee Matthews. All right. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 4.2, review the college and career access pathways partnership with Ferndale Unified School District. Any comments or questions here?
Again, this is just strictly for information. The board will see it again in October for approval.
Thank you, Dr. Flamer. All right. Pretty standard. Item 4.3, the fundraising efforts for athletics. Dr. Flamer.
And if I could please get Marty Coelho to discuss this item, but also to share his screen so we could walk it through. He and I have talked to, and as Bob Brown, we've talked a lot in the last year about fundraising for our athletic program. Not just specifically football, although that's a focus, but all of our athletic programs. Especially moving forward, it's going to be very key to our enrollment growth is that we start bringing back sports and actually taking care of them and having the students back on campus. So I've asked Marty to walk the board through what fundraising tactics and ideas that we have and get your information. Marty, if I could turn this over to you, please.
Great, thank you, President Flamer. Does everyone see the presentation on the screen? Great.
Yes, we see it.
So we'd like to walk you through kind of an outline of the football fundraising plans as they exist today. They continue to evolve as we work on them. So overall goals for our fundraising plan for CR football is to develop a sustainable fundraising structure for football and athletics so that the funds that we raise every year can be counted on going forward to provide that stability in the program. We're looking at raising $200,000 in annual funds to cover travel, equipment, and facilities. And our approach in doing that is to have a multi-track fundraising approach. So everything from naming opportunities to major gifts to monthly and one-time giving to establishing a corporate partnership program for all of athletics and special events. We're going to be establishing a volunteer alumni, coaches, and players advisory team, and not only for their input into our process, but also it will provide some validation and validity to our efforts with other football players and coaches. And we'll employ an ask team. Multiple people will be used working together and dealing and working with prospective donors. So for our naming opportunities, the foundation has established an ad hoc naming of facilities and properties committee. You can see the members below. The purpose of that committee is to make recommendations to the president on prospective donors that we can approach. So not only will we be reviewing names, but we'll also be vetting names as well. I want to go ahead and show you now a list. It's a starting point of our assets of buildings and fields that potentially could be named. And can everyone see that? So this is it's a little hard to share on a screen, but we wanted to give you some sort of background on how much we have that can potentially be named. From the PE assets to the new creative arts building to our existing buildings, down to what's in the field house in our fields. So there are a lot of properties that potentially can be named. And we're currently discussing different strategies for the funding of those. Not necessarily all the funds up front, maybe payment over time. Trustee Capini brought up the idea for the stadium that perhaps we sell naming rights for the stadium for a 3 to 5 year period of time. So that's something we'll talk about. These are all starting points in terms of perhaps what we would charge for naming rights for these different assets. I expect that that will evolve through time. Next tactic I'd like to review is major gifts. So we've established a tiered approach to this. It's going to be for all of athletics. And the program isn't quite working right, so bear with me. I want to give you an example of this. If you look at tier 1, these would obviously be the top end gifts to the football program. And we provide a very substantial level of benefits at that level. Potential naming opportunities, recognition at the trustees meeting, at the foundation meeting. There's a entry hallway into the PE facility where a wall you immediately see as soon as you walk into the facility that will be great for recognizing people and the gifts that they make to the program. And we can recognize all athletic gifts at that point on that wall. Getting a table reserved for the dinner and the auction, logoed clothing and items. So in this case, they receive football logoed clothing and items. But if somebody was to give a gift and want that for the basketball program, they would be receiving basketball logoed clothing and items. And then annual passes to the games and invitations to practices and special events. So it's a pretty robust set of benefits. And then that starts to decrease as you work down in the amount of gifts that people would be providing to us to a tier 1, tier 2 level, and then to a tier 1 level. Outside of the major gifts programs, we're also working on monthly and one-time giving. So what that really entails at this point is the building of databases where we can capture all of our football alumni and coaches and get their mailing addresses and or email addresses so that we can contact them. There's different approaches that we're utilizing to build those databases, and the thought process is that we will be building those databases for all of the sports programs. And then once in place, it's just a matter of maintaining them through time. A corporate sponsorship program, worked with Bob and Keith on building out a corporate sponsorship program and gotten feedback from various foundation board members. I think we're at a point now where we can start to move this forward and build out a corporate sponsorship program for all of our sport programs at CR. And then when the pandemic cools down again, or eventually leaves, we can really go back to our special events, although some of those special events may happen with social distancing and masking. Are there any questions around the kind of the general outline for the fundraising plan for CR football?
Trustee Mullery.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Coelho, you actually have somewhat responded to my initial question, which was whether there were any Title IX considerations in having a fundraising plan specifically for CR football. as opposed to a fundraising plan for athletics in general.
Right.
And as you moved through your presentation, it became more clear that much of what you were discussing would apply to other athletic teams, both men and women. But when I was first reviewing the agenda, I wondered about that, since it was titled a fundraising plan specifically for CR football.
Right. The structure that we've built out can be used by all of the athletic teams and will be. And so we wanted to have that consistency across all programs. Football is actively working to launch this. We expect other sporting programs to also take advantage of the structure now that it's going into place. So when we're discussing naming rights, it won't just be for those who are interested in football. Same with major gifts. And then as we build out the databases for monthly and one-time giving.
Thank you.
I had a question about corporate sponsorships. Are those included in the ability to name facilities? And also, what's typical for how long the name applies? How does that whole process work?
Yes. And so at this point, we've separated the naming rights of the facilities from corporate sponsorships. Corporate sponsorships would be signage, for instance, that you would see like up in the HSU's football facilities or basketball facilities, and recognition online. So those type of benefits are kind of in this $10,000 and less range that we're talking about under corporate sponsorships that are repeated on an annual basis. It provides the opportunity for all levels of business, small, medium, large, within our community to participate in supporting CR athletics. The naming rights is substantially more expensive at this point. And really, we don't have a baseline yet as to how, if we did do it on a annual basis or multi-year basis, what that would look like. Typically for major facilities like that, you see at other colleges or in professional leagues, you're talking 3, 5, 10 years period of time. And so I think the key to how we're building this structure is trying to stay as flexible as possible and open to as many options as possible. And hopefully that broadens the market for the number of individuals or families or businesses that might be able to participate at that type of financial level.
Marty, if I may add something. So that doesn't mean that if the Copini Farms would like to donate $1.5 million to have the Copini football field stadium, that we would turn that down.
Duly noted. Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Coelho?
I
have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
My question is how does our current policy on naming buildings and roads and things on campus compare with this current plan? Was that taken into consideration?
Yes, it sure is, because basically the foundation committee is basically just taking names and vetting names and then taking those to President Flamer, who then goes through his own kind of vetting review process. And then for those names that go that he approves, he'll be bringing those to the Board of Trustees. And then once we have approval from the Board of Trustees, that's when we would actually go back and potentially solicit individuals. So we're working in line with the existing policy.
And then my next question, it was a little hard for me to see the PowerPoint because I'm using my iPad, but I noticed you had smaller items like benches and planters. Are there any items like tiles or pavers, bricks along the walkway that were considered for naming or for donation purposes?
Not at this point, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be added in later.
Thank you.
Trustee Matthews?
I was just wondering about whether revenue from attendance at the games, which would vary from sport to sport, but if that makes a recognizable contribution to the expenses, and is that already in the budget for athletics outside of this fundraising effort?
Yes, those funds are already worked into the athletic budget. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that revenue stream is, but they're already accounted for.
Okay. I wasn't asking for a dollar figure. I just wondered if it was enough to impact, revenue for the programs.
I would say if we're selling the football stadium like we've been selling out the gym, the answer would be yes.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, any other comments? Thank you, Director Coelho. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along to item 5.1, organizational reports, beginning with the Academic Senate.
Hello.
Welcome. Hello.
I'm Erin Wall, and I'm going to be serving as the Academic Senate President for this year. Last year, I was the Vice President. I went ahead and submitted a report. I think the best summary is the Senate is here to work with you during these challenging times, and as we move forward with our new educational master plan. I know you've been looking at drafts and such as we have. We're here to work with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Wall. Any comments or questions from the members? All right. Looking forward to it. Thank you for the report. Item 5.2, CRFO. Professor Haggerty.
Hello, it's good to see everybody in this weird situation. Fall semester is always exciting. I always like fall semester for all the energy on campus, but of course, this is a different year for all of us. I'll just briefly kind of go through some of the work that CRFO has been doing in the last couple of months. So over the summer, we did meet with the district a few times. We met with them to talk about COVID protocols for returning to campus, and then to discuss arrangements for reassigned time for some faculty work that the district wanted faculty to engage in for this academic year. So we met with them several times. We all know that COVID continues to be at the forefront of the academic environment. Faculty have been working very hard for the last 18 months to transfer learning to the safe online format. Many of us were really looking forward to being back in the classroom this fall with students, but nothing is normal at this time. And we're all struggling to keep content interesting and engaging while online, and also while meeting students in class in the modified environment of all of us in masks and trying to socially distance. I just wanted to point out that faculty are pretty stressed in the interactions that I've had, and speaking for myself too. During this pandemic, we're the employee group that has seen the most amount of change to our work during this time period. Along with the change, we've had a lot of upheaval in administration. Every dean and vice president, except for one dean, is new this academic year. We also are feeling the changes in the support staff that we have in our divisions, in the Senate, in the associate faculty area. So all individuals are new in those positions, and I think we have some that are not filled yet too. And looking at some of the changes that we're experiencing, I know several times in talking to the district about plans and work that needs to be done. I often think there's so many less faculty all the time. If we were to count up the number of faculty, which the Sierra leadership did recently, and take away the people who retired last year and people who are serving in administrative positions, we have about 62 full-time faculty right now. 20 years ago, that number was 120. So just by the numbers, you can see how this is difficult in the faculty area. This significant change needs to be addressed and planned for in our future. And I think everyone is thinking about kind of realigning what our faculty looks like in regard to what's happening at HSU too. And this is going to be a big endeavor. I continue to be engaged with FAC, our statewide faculty advocacy group. I'm now a voting member on their board, and I'm also on the legislative committee, which I'm really excited about to be involved in helping to move legislation forward. FAC has had really good luck in the last couple of years with legislation that they're sponsoring. They were also very strong advocates for our state budget. And when you were talking about the budget, you saw the big changes that happened last year. In forums that I've been to with the state, what I've been hearing is that people have not seen this positive of a budget in the California community college system in decades. So we're really excited when we're looking at some of the work that needs to be done at our college, that this is a really stable budget at this point. I know people are concerned about FTES, but we are on hold harmless until 24-25. And so that's a number of years of stability that we have that I haven't seen in my time at College of the Redwoods. So thank you all for letting me to present in front of you. And I hope someday soon we'll all be back face to face together. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Haggerty. Any comments or questions? All right, item 5.3, President Ingman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to the district and President Flamer for appointing Rory Johnson as Chief Negotiator for CSCA dealings. We've been working through our successor contract and had some very good, fruitful discussions. Rory, for those of you that may not know, was a former classified employee, was on the negotiations team with CSCA. So he's definitely got some great experiences when it comes to negotiating and definitely when it comes to understanding the CSCA contract. We ratified the agreement at the end of last month with the provide vaccination status or get tested weekly. Today, we met and ratified the impacts and effects of the vaccine mandate based on the resolution you guys passed last month. A concern that we continue to have, and President Flamer knows about this already, so it won't come as a surprise. Classified staff that are on campus still have concerns with masking and asking people to mask, people that refuse to wear a mask. It's very frustrating. We feel and we know that, it's not necessarily our job to ask someone to put a mask on, especially when we get so much kickback from them. My statement would be to everybody out there that's listening today is we all need to do our part. We all need to be respectful of each other. Please wear a mask, please. It doesn't really take that much to do it, and for all of us to work together to try and get back to some sense of normalcy, in the future, whenever that might be, which I don't think that we really know when that's going to be, but the frustrations and the concerns are really there. I know that the student vaccine mandate will come down for spring 22. It seems like that's far away. I'm just hoping that continues to progress even more. And then on a final note, I was recently reappointed to my regional representative term for the next 2 years, which that means I'm helping represent chapters from Del Norte down to Southern Humboldt. There's 14 chapters. And because CSCA feels like we never do enough, also was appointed as an administrator for one of our chapters here locally who is under administratorship. The CSCA first vice president had that role. And when he became our new CSCA state association president, he asked me to step in and perform those duties. And administratorship is never anywhere we want a chapter to be. So we're going to get them back on track where they need to be. So thank you guys again for always having us on the agenda and allowing us to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Ingman. Any comments or questions for CSEA? All right. Thank you again for your report. Moving on to item 5.4, Vice President Dunphy. All right. Item 5.5, our student trustee. Welcome.
Hello. So I'm here to give a little report about what's kind of been going on with the ASCR. So we have made a set meeting date. So we meet every first and third Friday at 3 o'clock. And there are currently 4 officers, including myself. Actually, that is a lie. We got a new one on our last meeting. So now we have 5. So our numbers are slowly but surely getting there. And then I attended the student trustee conference back in August, where I learned to be a better student trustee and kind of learn the ropes. They explained more of what to do, how to understand the agenda, what means what in the terms of what the board does. And then through ASCR, we are looking at a leadership conference held in Atlanta, Georgia in November, I believe. And so there's a in-person and virtual option for that. So we are still deciding whether to attend in person or virtually. And then through the ASCR, we are looking to partner with the First Gen Student Support Group to hold a celebration in November. We do not know much about that. It was just brought to us last meeting, but we are looking for that. So I think that'd be a great way to kind of get out there and meet more students. And then the ASCR has started posting introductions on social media. So if you guys are on Instagram, our handle is ascr.s.
Perfect. Thank you. Any comments or questions for our student trustee? Well, thank you for your report and looking forward to hearing more great things out of ASCR. Congratulations on your new officer. That's great. Let's bring us down to administrative reports, item 6.1, Dr. Flamer.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to report on is to first give a shout out to Molly Blakemore, because she has done a phenomenal job on our CR podcast. And if you haven't had a chance to take a listen, the one about the vaccines, but also about UFOs were extremely entertaining and very, very good. So I encourage the board to take a look at the podcasts. And I would be open to any questions or concerns the board may have of me.
A bit of a quiet bunch, but vaccines and UFOs, I mean, that begs some discussion right there. Thank you, Dr. Flamer. Let's see, item 6.2, Vice President Administrative Services. This is Julia Morrison.
The only thing I'd like to add is in regard to the FCMAT fiscal health risk analysis. It's a great tool to go through. We'll be doing this on a regular basis. And then also knowing that we have a low or low risk score is great news. But what else is really great to pay attention to is those questions that we had to answer no to. Those are areas of improvement that we can focus on. So we'll be looking at those areas where we can make improvement. That's all I have to add, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any comments.
Thank you. Trustee Mullery?
Yes, thank you. Yes. And thank you, Vice President Morrison. I always learn a lot from your reports. And I did look at the FCMAT survey. And congratulations that we are low risk. You and your team have a lot to do with that. There were 3 no's that I kind of starred for myself in terms of the survey questions. And they were numbers 4.9, 7.2, and 10.8. The reason those 3 kind of stood out for me is at least one of them had to do with the board and something that possibly the board should be doing. I don't have it in front of me, but you can look at them later. And the other 2 looked like there was possibly a regulation that we were not complying with. So I just wanted to flag those. I flagged them for myself. The one specifically that refers to the board was something that I'm thinking we maybe should revisit if this is something the board should be doing, because it specifically mentioned the board, and it was a no. So yeah, 4.9, 7.2, and 10.8 were the flags for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mullery. Any further comments or questions, Vice President Morrison?
No, thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Item 6.3, Ms. Mayor.
Happy to answer any questions you have about my report.
Trustee Mullery.
I'm sorry, I seem to have many questions. Thank you, Vice President Mayor. I find your reports most informative. Somewhere down at the bottom of the report, it refers to spring scheduling that would be primarily dealing with online courses. So I forget exactly how that was worded. It was number 2, the spring schedule will be heavily weighted towards online classes. And I guess I just wondered about that's what we're anticipating, mostly online classes in the spring. I guess I was kind of hopeful that we'd be moving more towards face-to-face.
Boy, you and me both. Yeah, so looking at the goals that we had for this schedule, primarily, the number 1 goal was to create a schedule that was stable, that we weren't changing a lot. And we found that it's very difficult to predict what COVID's going to be doing in our community at any given point in time. And usually we're planning so far out from the reality that we're going to be facing. What we bumped up against this fall was when we created the schedule in January, February, March, and made our adjustments, and the vaccine was coming out. We were all super hopeful and full of excitement about the idea that we would be able to have so many face-to-face classes because everybody was going to get vaccinated and COVID was going to be kind of in the rearview mirror. Clearly that did not happen. Mm-hmm. So what we ended up getting faced with instead was, oh my goodness, how do we try to control for what the situation on the ground is realistically? So we wanted to be a little bit more conservative moving into spring so that we could give students and faculty and staff something that was more predictable, that we weren't going to be adjusting more than we needed to. So that's when I met with the deans, we talked about what could allow us to achieve that. And we felt that a schedule that was more heavily weighted towards online would be able to provide that for us. It also allows us to serve a greater number of students because we can offer full courses, at the full course cap, as opposed to having to account for social distancing in a face-to-face class. Now, a second goal is that we wanted to create a schedule that was equitable. We know that online education is not for everyone and that some students are disadvantaged either through their access to technology or through just the way they learn. Online learning is not for everyone. So we wanted to make sure that we were protecting classes for students who may not be able to be as successful in online classes. So the deans are working on building that schedule that will try to bring the best of both worlds to our students in a way that we can predict moving into spring, that what we've got on the books will actually remain on the books. And then keeping classes, preparing to add more classes should things fill in a way that would allow us to do that.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Dr. Mullery?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I was just really hopeful, and I absolutely agree that we're far better off for both the students and the faculty to have something that is more stable than to be changing it around in December. So no, that definitely answers my question, and I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Mayer. Item 6.5, Director Coelho.
6.4.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did skip 6.4. Mr. Slaughter, I apologize. Please.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to let the board know I will be opening with discussion with the Student Services team on identifying strategic priorities for the division. This discussion will focus on a number of broad themes to include campus safety, improving our student-centered funding formula metrics, enrollment management, student equity, professional development, and technology. We want to ensure that the division's future efforts and resources are aligned with the district's educational master plan. And then a second update, I had a discussion with Mr. Paul Chown from Institutional Research and Mr. Tom Cossey from Information Systems about reinvigorating our retention alert program. Mr. Chown provided data that mapped the various types and quantity of early alert referrals within the term. And Mr. Cossey provided documentation on the various users and roles for the early alert system, which is currently being reviewed and updated. Happy to field any questions if there are any.
Trustee Mullery.
Yeah, Dean Slaughter, in that very first section, when you talk about the number of students and employees who verified they are vaccinated, do you happen to know what that is on a percentage basis? Like 281 employees verified that they've been vaccinated. Do you have an approximate percentage number for that, or for students? I
do not, but I'd be happy to get that for you.
Okay, I was just trying to put it in context. So thank you.
That was my question also.
If I can address that real quickly, is that I know that Cynthia is working with Vice President Slaughter's office to make sure that the lists are synonymous or equal. So we're tracking the right people, not a past retiree that are currently on the books that we have to track. So we want to make sure that the list that we are dealing with is actually accurate, and then we'll be able to identify a percentage of who's been vaccinated, who has not, and by when.
Thank you.
All right.
I
Yes.
had another question on the residential housing. 71 students currently residing in the dorms, and I just wondered, are they full? Are there reasons why they're not? What is that situation?
Yeah, so the current status of the dorms is this is full for our COVID occupancy levels.
Got it.
So normally I believe the dorms can hold up to about 150 students, if I'm correct. But because we've kind of gone to a single occupancy model, this 71 students represents full. We also have a few rooms that are offline just in case we need quarantine rooms for the future.
Thank you. Could I ask one more question, President Kelly?
Yes, please.
Under EOPS, you mentioned over 50 Pelican-based scholars who are continuing as EOPS students and potentially may have more. Was our allocation or allowance or whatever of EOPS students for the district increased in order to accommodate Pelican Bay State Prison scholars? you know, I mean, I think the college gets a certain number of EOPS slots.
I believe for the categorical program, it's based on the number of students served. I don't have enough of a historical perspective to know if that represents any increase or decrease over time, but I can look into that for you.
Okay, I was just curious because years ago, which was before the legislation changed the status of classes for incarcerated students, which could be on site just for them. At that time, if you awarded some EOPS benefits to a student at the prison, it meant a student on the campus was not. It was a fixed number of students. And that was where I was asking if that somehow had changed when the issue of incarcerated students' classes changed.
Not to my knowledge, I believe there is a cap on the total number of targeted students for the academic year, from my understanding.
Trustee Biggin?
Thank you. My question relates to what's the status of our food pantries, and are we still setting aside some dorm rooms for the homeless project that we've been involved in?
Yeah, there are currently 13 Grove students who are residing in the dorms. So there's definitely a number of students that are taking advantage of that opportunity and being supported by the Grove program. I do not have an update on the food pantry, but I can look into that and provide some more information next month.
Okay, and could you also check on the Del Norte and the KT sites and the status of their food pantries?
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter. Anyone else? All right, appreciate it. Now moving to item 6.5, Director Coelho.
Yeah, I wanted to provide some additional detail to my report. First, I'd like to provide some background on the $100,000 gift to CR Nursing. The gift was made by Fernando Penalosa, who's a first-generation college student who began his college career at two community colleges, Mexico City College and San Francisco Junior College, and then ended up becoming a sociology professor at Cal State Long Beach. Fernando is currently in his mid-90s and lives over in Timber Ridge. I dropped by a few weeks ago and spent quite a bit of time with him. He is quite the character, has written prolifically over his lifetime. And all I know is if I have half the energy and abilities that gentleman has in my mid-90s, I'm going to be a happy person. Fernando made his gift in memory of his wife, Doris Ann Penalosa, who was born in Washington, D.C. in 1938, and she died last year. She received her RN from Mercy Hospital in Baltimore and her BSN at Cal State Long Beach. She worked for many years at Kaiser in Harbor City, California in their step-down unit. And so the gift was made by Fernando in her memory. In addition to the $100,000 gift we received, we also secured a planned giving gift estimated at $300,000, and it's written into a local individual's will. These funds will be, when received, will be used to support Shively Farm. We will be giving the donor a tour of Shively Farm here in the next few weeks. The funds, based on the wishes of the donor and input from the farm manager, instruction, and the dean of that area, have been designated to support student transportation, the farm's internship program, potential student housing solutions on the farm, classroom structures such as an amphitheater and or a kitchen facility. And that is my update. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Coelho. Questions?
Congratulations.
Yeah, what a phenomenally generous donation, and exciting to see all the work that it's going to be put to. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Marty, for providing that additional background on the $100,000 donation to the nursing program. I really appreciated hearing that. So thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 7.1. Do we have any requests to place an item on a future agenda? All right, hearing none. There's no closed session today. So with that, we can adjourn at 2:06 p.m. Thank you all.